percentage assured that they are going to get refunded because of their diligent work, even though they didn't have any money, they were focused on getting the job done. They do the alcohol, the sticker shock.
Right.
They're the ones that do the sticker shock. And Kathy Nafis, when she was here last meeting or the meeting before, talking about the senior citizens and needing rides and transportation and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of programs going on. So I think Kenton County Alliance is going to get their funding back.
Anybody else? Now it's time we have reports of city operations. Mr. Viox, our city engineer, is in Florida. I understand he's going to have another doctor take a look at his ticker while he's down there. So let's all be thinking about Jim. But if there are any questions for the city engineer, get it to us and we'll pass it on. Yeah. Yes.
The Mark Field said about, was that October 8th Tuesday or the following Tuesday?
The meeting on compensation is scheduled for next Tuesday.
Okay, next Tuesday. Okay.
We got it off the committee meetings night thinking we'd have lots of committees.
Okay.
Because it's going to take the entire evening. Okay? City Attorney, Mr. Wickman.
I don't have anything to report, Mayor.
Any questions of the City Attorney? City Administrative Officer, Mr. Fields.
I will say this, the view's different from up here. It is.
I won't call it better, but different.
Right. Chair's pretty comfortable.
Because we
then.
can't go out the back door and hide.
That's true. Well, it's been a busy couple weeks. Just to let you know, I have attended a few meetings. I attended my first Kenton County Administrators meeting this past Thursday. And at that meeting, and I think, Sherry, did you send it out? You were going to send out the training. There's some training coming up that's being put on by the auditor from the state. That's good for local officials. Look in your email and see it. If you want to attend the training, it's free. It's going to be right out here at the Med Center. And I know in our meeting, you've seen all the news and the local papers about the crises that are hitting some of the cities around us. And this may be a really good time for elected officials to get back into the groove about what is, actually your responsibilities in auditing and doing some things. So I know that Mayor Whalen from Florence is one of the presenters. So she can bring that perspective because I think they kind of lived through one of those tragedies in the city of Florence. So that's there. So if you want to go, email Sherry or Missy and they'll make reservations for you. Even though you don't need reservations, they'd like to get a head count ahead of time to do it. We went to the Northern Canary Area Development Luncheon. Dave, Becky, and I, and Assistant Chief Wilson. They do their annual awards thing. We went down there last week. It was, again, informative, seeing the good work that the Ed District does. I really believe, just from seeing this now and being a little more part of it, that we probably need to really seek out the Ed District and maybe try to do a little bit more with them. I know Ms. Hopkins has been going to all the meetings and things, and so she's pretty up to speed on all that. We had a meeting also of all those that are attending the next 3 days at the KLC convention. It's down here in Covington. All the people that are registered to go. We had a meeting and planned our attendance so that we would get the maximum out of the training opportunities that are available to us. So we're all going to go to different things, so we're going to get the most bang out of our buck. And then we also figured out that there was some classes that maybe our new HR person and revenue collection people and IT that maybe needed to go to, so we added a couple staff members to it to go to just certain trainings. Didn't register them for the whole conference, just for that day. So there is some beneficial training going on down there. Last Friday, I met with Mayor Rouse and pretty much got my marching orders and the expectations that he has of me. My goal is to try to put a plan together, an action plan to give to each of you, but I'd like your input into that. So if you would, please call me, email me, stop by, see me. I'm going to be here every day. Let me know what those expectations are, what projects are most important to you. And if you see, something that needs to be done, please let me know and get that to me, and we'll address it the best way we can. But I'd like to put your expectations into there. And again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And I'll tell you, I appreciate it, and we'll do the best we can. Thank you.
One of the issues that have been brought up by council during our 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-month interim period was a lack of communication. Make sure that you let us know how you want to receive the information and how often you want to receive the information, and do not hesitate to call either Mark or me at any time about anything, because we want we want a transparent city government, and we want the doors to be open to everybody, okay? You've heard the reports of city operations. I'll entertain a motion to be adopted as presented. Motion by Ms. Camp, second by Ms. Pitts. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence, Ms. Hoffman?
Mark Fields received a letter from Sergeant Norm Lyle. Sergeant Lyle announced his retirement effective November 1st, 2013. The city received a letter from Covington Fire Chief Daniel Matthew. Chief Matthew thanked the Erlanger Fire and EMS Department and the Northern Kentucky Technical Rescue Team for their assistance in rescuing a kitten.
Any other council member have any correspondence this evening? Now is the time we have on our agenda for citizens or public comments. David, has anybody signed up? Nobody signed up, okay. We have any bids, Ms. Hoffman?
No, sir.
Is there any work in progress? Any old business needs to be reported on? Is there any new business for the good and welfare of the city? I'm going to bring up one thing just because it hit me in the face. I know the boy when he was born. I coached him in football at Lloyd. I got to be one of his law professors at Chase. And Nick Brinkman, who many of you all know, passed the bar. And I will have the...
No, did he?
Yes. I will have the distinct opportunity and honor as president of the Kentucky Bar Association in 2 Fridays from now to introduce him to the Supreme Court and move his introduction to the bar of the Commonwealth, and which will be one of the neatest things I've ever done in my life.
That's awesome.
Especially since you knew the kid when he was this tall. But I have to tell you, folks, there have been, and I can name 3 or 4 of them off the top of my head, Christina Cos Kennedy, who now works with me a little bit, Stephen Doan. Lloyd High School is turning out kids who are becoming lawyers. They're passing the bar. I bet you we have 5 or 6 attorneys. Jeff Blankenship's daughter was right there. I think she passed the bar. You know, and then we find out that Lloyd High School has received a distinguished ranking in the most recent tests, whereas the elementary schools are really needing progress. So we knew that because Kathy came in here and told us that the kids are coming into elementary school at the kindergarten and are not kindergarten ready. So they're having to take these kids that are not kindergarten ready. By the time they get to the high school, it's distinguished. And Tishner is making substantial progress. So things are working. I didn't mean it's perfect, but things are working. And with Nick passing the bar, which makes him, you know, that's a big deal. It's like also becoming a doctor and starting to practice medicine. It's a big
And
deal.
he's such a nice kid.
Our school system here is not too bad, folks. We got our problems, but it's not too bad. Legislation, we have a couple first readings. Mr. Wickman, you ready?
Yes, sir. First one is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, establishing limits for the speed of motor vehicles on Kenton Lands Road and Crescent Springs Road in the city, providing penalties for the violation of the ordinance. The speed limits are 35 miles an hour on that part of Kenton Lands Road north of Russell McClure Drive, and 25 miles per hour on that portion of Crescent Springs Road north of Riggs Road. I'm sorry, it's 35 miles an hour. Apparently, those were the speed limits we thought were there. I'm a little bit fuzzy on the background behind of it. Maybe this Chief Fields or City Administrator Fields can enlighten us a little bit why we're changing them.
We did believe that the speed limit was 35 during the whole road. It used to be 45 along the part that's in front of Tuis's property. When you get into Crescent Springs, it ends up being 35 again. So what we had going from a 25 to a 35 to a 45 back to a 25, so it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Now with more traffic and everything out there, we wanted it to be 35. The signs, when Public Works went out to replace them, found out the signs actually were 35. Public Works actually brought this to our attention, and they did a little research and looking into the ordinances to make sure that they were putting up the correct new signs, and they found out that we had never changed it from 45 to 35, even though it had been marked that way for a while. So we looked back a lot, Ms. Hoffman and Frank, I know did a lot of research trying to find the ordinance where we had done that, but obviously we didn't do it, so this is cleaning that up and making that whole stretch of road 35 miles an hour, except that closest to Dixie Highway where it's still going to be 25.
It's not unusual for things like that to fall through the cracks. It happens. I'll ask the city clerk to note in the minutes the first reading of that ordinance. Mr. Wickman.
Next is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, in regard to distilled spirit wine and malt beverage regulations. By summary, the ordinance allows the sale of malt beverages and liquor on those days when elections are being conducted. Previously, the state statute prohibited that, and in the recent legislature, they enacted legislation that gave that authority to the discretion of the city.
I'll ask the city clerk to note in the minutes the first reading of that ordinance. Is that the end of the legislation?
Yes, sir.
That is the end of our agenda. Chief Ahrens, congratulations, sir. Look forward to working with you as long as I can keep you here, as long as the citizens keep me here. Mark, it's going to be great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I entertain a motion, we adjourn. Motion by Mr. Brown, the birthday boy, second by Ms. Connell. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.